little bit of a story time, nothing too crazy, just a little short little snippet. But um, over 5 years ago, me and a friend, artist named Pox Tony, still releases music. He's very awesome. You should listen to him. But we got together and we created a duo called Blue July. And at that time, I think I had only been doing music for 3 years. I was just producing, nothing really crazy. And we actually went to high school together, and he would sit there and we'd listen to the music that I'd make. He liked it a lot, and eventually came to this point where he reached out and just thought, hey, let's do a collab. And at this point, just anybody reaching out to me and thinking that my music was good enough to do a collab was more than a validation that I ever needed. That right there was pretty much the best feeling I could have gotten at the time. And so, as this duo, Blue July, we started to make music. We released our first song, Crazy, which we thought was the greatest thing ever. We still love it a lot. It's still a good song, but you can clearly see where things kind of start to improve for us down the line. But that's not the point. The main point is that without him and without Blue July, I would have never gotten to the point where I can create my own solo project and release my first album, which actually came out. Now it's hitting that 4 year mark, which is amazing to me, but my first album tomorrow. So at this point, when I'm making Tomorrow, I had this mentality of as I continue to become a producer, artist, and all this, I want to be self sufficient. And that means producing my own music, writing my own lyrics, mixing, all of that. And I think it was a great mentality, but it was also very hindering to my growth because I wasn't able to focus on just one thing to perfect. But the best part was most of my practice for that mentality was done with Blue July. And that's just another instance of without Blue July, I wouldn't have been able to become who I am today, let alone at that time creating Tomorrow. Aside from my technical abilities, that was able to, I was able to learn that as I went along. But the biggest issue that I found in myself that was going to take a long time, and I'm still working on it now, is an issue that I've yet to eradicate, let alone mitigate. Um, it's just this process of making music where I would constantly compare myself to other artists, and that wasn't what actually messed me up. What messed me up the most was when I'd compare my music to previous music that I'd made, and it was just this constant mentality of me saying, yeah, nothing can be better than this. Like everything I created somehow became my new best thing to me. And the next thing I'd work on somehow just didn't feel good. No matter what I did, it just couldn't be as good as this last thing. And that mentality really hindered me. It left me to a point where almost anything I tried to create would just get scrapped. I didn't want to make anything because it just couldn't be good anymore. I kept putting all these previous songs on an enormous pedestal that just couldn't be triumphed. Nothing could beat that. And looking back at it, I do just think that it was this constant fear of my creativity just leaving me. I could never be as creative as I was making that previous song. And then another thing that would kick in was me thinking, what if I was never creative at all? What if these were just flukes? What if this amazing music I just made to myself was just a one-time thing and I can't make anything that good again? So eventually I was able to get past that mentality of, nothing's going to be as good as the last thing. I was able to finish Tomorrow. I was able to release it. And to this day, I still think it's probably one of the best ways I could have started out my career as an artist. But even after that release happened, I still had the thought of, okay, what am I going to do next? I can't beat what I just did. But it just kept following. So project after project, song after song, that something about that just stayed in my head. And everything I did would just get scrapped. I have an enormous stack of songs that I'm pretty sure just are sitting there in a hard drive because to me they're not worth it. They're not worthless, but they're definitely not as good as anything I could have ever created back then. And it messes with me because it almost seems like I can't make music anymore when I start thinking like that. Now it's 2026 and I've been making music as far as production 10 years now. It's been 10 years since I first started producing, and it's been 5 years since I've actually started releasing as the artist Sway Jr. And that idea, the mentality of, nothing will beat this hasn't fully left me yet, but I'm working on it. And luckily, it hasn't stopped me creating new music. I'm still at a point where, I'll sometimes make a song, delete it. I don't like it. And it's because of that mentality. But there's other times where I still can just sit there and realize, no, this is going to be my next best thing. And I don't know if sometimes that's healthy or not, but I've started to realize that the constant chase for perfection is it's healthy to let me grow. But at the same time, if I let it overwhelm me or overtake my entire psyche, it can hurt me too. And then the overall point with that is I start to think, who else feels this way? And I start to realize that although it's probably not everyone, I'm almost certain that there's a lot of people out there, artists, not just musically, but within any medium, that has that weird mentality of just nothing they do will be perfect or as good as the last thing they did. They have that one thing they have on that the biggest pedestal, and they just can't get past it, and it stops them from creating anything good or realizing how good the next thing they do create is. Kind of a rant, kind of not, kind of just me explaining how I feel about things, but at the end, I can look at myself and say, from when I started making music to now, I have definitely improved, and I think that's just the greatest thing ever. I clearly don't get a lot of views, a lot of listens, but to me, that's okay as long as I don't see it in a way of, I want to be seen. That's not really the goal here. The goal is for me to just express myself with my own medium, just like anyone who wants to take pictures, who wants to draw, any of that. It would be nice, yeah. I think anyone agrees with that, but at the same time, for me to look at it in a healthy way and just to stay sane about it, I need to realize that this is me being me and just doing things the way I want to do them. And that's why I like to be self-sufficient with it. And one of the key focuses that I need to remember is just that there's no right way to be me. And as long as I can remember that, I think I'll be okay. And I can just continue making music. So that's that little story time. Yeah, goodbye.
Feeling like I lost my way, hoping that I'll be okay. Counting my time by the day. I'm lost. Feeling like I lost my way.